There are 3 ways to stop limiting God and yourself. Change your thoughts, change your beliefs, and change your actions. I'm inviting you here on Take the Limits Off, Friday evenings at 8 p.m. right here on Boss Up Houston Network. We serve an unlimited God. Don't you think it's time we take the limits off? Hey, good evening. My name is TRICIA Kyle, and I am the host of Take the Limits Off. This is our weekly show. We come to you every single Friday at 8 p.m. And the entire crux of the show is hopefully to inspire, encourage, and empower you to take the limits off of not only God, but your life. Amen. To begin to see it with a fresh set of eyes, daring to believe that God has something amazing in store for you. And today I am ever so honored to have with me Blair Parker. She is an attorney and also a candidate running for the bench seat in Fort Bend County, seat 328. Is that correct? District 328.
That is correct. Yes, ma'am. It's a family law court.
Family Law Court. I am ever so glad to have you here with us today. We're going to talk about a couple of things. One of them is the importance of voting, but we definitely want to talk about what it is that what your platform is. Now, I got an opportunity to meet you a couple months ago. It was a few months ago. We had a domestic violence conference that Boss Up Houston put on. Hold on one second. Let me stop before I go any further. We are here on Boss Up Houston Network. So you can catch us every single Friday by going to our YouTube page. Make sure that you subscribe so you can get notifications every time we drop a new show. Also, the Facebook page, and you can check me out on Take the Limits Off, my YouTube page, as well as the Facebook page as well. Now that I've gotten some housekeeping out of the way, I told you it's been a minute. It's been over a month since I've been in the studio. COVID is a real thing, you guys. Please continue to mask up and be safe. I'm not going to tell you to get a vaccine. There's so many people that are just digging their heels in where that is concerned. But I do believe that we need to be looking at this globally and community-wise. Although someone may have it and it may not put them in the hospital, we never know how the virus would affect the next person. So it's all about community. We're in this thing together, and we certainly have to look out for one another. Now, Miss Blair, I am so glad, Miss Blair Parker, I am so glad to have you virtually. We're not in the studio today,
Yes.
but I'm so glad to have you. We met at a domestic violence conference, and you were one of the speakers that were on the panel. And so you have a lot of history when it comes to family law. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what your experience is when it comes to family law?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a family law attorney. I have been practicing for over 10 years, and for the entirety of that time, I have done family law. And even before I got my license, I did family law when I was in law school, and even before I went to law school. Let's start there. I worked at the Attorney General's office in the Child Support Division prior to going to law school. Then when I was in law school, I interned at the Harris County Felony Family Violence Division in the prosecutor's office, and then I also worked at the pro bono clinics that South Texas College of Law puts on, where they offer pro bono services to people who need it in family law cases, because you're not entitled to an attorney except for very specific instances in family law. So if you can't afford a lawyer, then you're kind of on your own. And so that was my pre-license experience. And then once I got out and got my license, I just immediately got involved in family law. I've done several jury trials. I've done countless bench trials, countless number of contested hearings. I've done some appellate work. I've done CPS work. I've done protective orders. I have done enforcements. I have also, right now, a lot of my practice is also doing amicus work, which is amicus attorneys are appointed to cases to represent the best interest of the children. And so I have to interview the kids, go do home visits and things of that nature, so that when we go to court for any contested hearing, the judge is going to be looking at me to, as to what my position is, because I'm kind of seen as an arm of the court. And so that's, that's pretty much been my life for the last 13 years, through law school and now my practice. And it's been a ride.
Wow. Tell me about the 328th District Court, or that area in particular. Where is that?
So the district courts in any county are countywide seats. So literally anyone in Fort
Okay.
Bend County can vote for a district judge or a county court judge. And the 328th District Court is a family law court. So all they do is family law. So anything having to do with domestic litigation, protective orders, CPS, divorces, custody cases, grandparents cases, just all the real fun stuff. Adoptions, that is the fun part of our job. And and anything having to do with the family essentially is what that court is going to deal with. And they luckily Fort Bend is able to have these statutory family law courts that only deal with that, because in some other counties that are a little bit smaller, I mean, you got all these judges trying to do all different kinds of law at the same time, whereas in some of the bigger counties like Harris County and Fort Bend, you're able to have these specific courts that just do family law. And so that helps with people like me, because that is, where my experience lies. I mean, it's, if I didn't have experience in the area of law that this particular court, had basically practices, then I would not be running for this bench. So here I am.
Amen. We're going to take a very quick break, and we definitely want to bring back Miss Blair Parker, and she is running for judge. We're going to talk about her election as well. We're going to talk about voting, and if you are not registered, oh my heavens, why not? Please get registered. We're going to take a very quick break, and we'll be right with you.
This is Judge Mike Engelhardt. I've been one of your elected trial court judges since 2008. I'm running for the First Court of Appeals in the 2022 election. If you can hear this ad, I'm asking for your vote in the March 1st, 2022 Democratic primary. I've been named Trial Judge of the Year, and I'm a board-certified lawyer. Please vote for me, Mike Engelhardt, to send a qualified, reasonable, and fair judge to the First Court of Appeals. That's me, Judge Mike Engelhardt, for the First Court of Appeals. Please register to vote and vote for Judge Mike Engelhardt for the First Court of Appeals. Thank you.
We are back. Thank you so much for joining us. We are here. This is Take the Limits Off. Hi, my name is TRICIA Kyle, and we have Miss Blair Parker, who is running for judge in the 328th District in Fort Bend County. Family law is her thing, and she's been doing this for quite some time. We talked, you and I talked on the phone about your service and your passion for family law in particular. Can you kind of tell people what sparked your interest and your heart in that area?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, my life, the simple answer is my life basically started in family court. I'm an adopted child. I was adopted as an infant. My sister was adopted 4.5 years later. So my life, like I said, basically started in family court. So it's near and dear to my heart. I understand how important these courts are and how much power these judges have, especially as a practicing attorney now that I've been in the system and I've dealt with it, with my clients. And I just have always had a fascination with the law and the government. And you couple that with, my passion for family law, and, becoming a family law attorney was just basically in the stars.
That's amazing. That's usually not the sexiest place that, people that are practicing law where they want to go. Family court is kind of like, you see some of the toughest stuff come through family courts, I imagine, and dealing in the work that you've had to deal with, that you've chosen to deal with, being that this is your profession and where your heart and where your passion is, especially considering, CPS and I know that you've dealt a lot in that area, and there's certainly a lot of things that we need that should be fixed, that need to be fixed. But so tell us your where are you standing at when it comes to family law? I know that you're running for judge in that district for family law. How are you meeting people? What are you telling people, to persuade them to come in and vote? I think a lot of times we vote for the big things and we don't
Right.
always vote for the smaller things. And we have to understand that we come in contact far more often with a judge than we would with a president or with the governor. And so I think we need to start when it comes to, constables and to our judges, and we need to be really proactive in thinking about people that have the same uh, um, beliefs or want the same thing for the community than maybe we want. And so when you're going out there and you're impressing upon people the importance of them for voting, even when it comes to family law, how do you talk to people? What is it that you're saying to them?
So what I try to emphasize is just exactly how much power these judges have over people's lives. Once they come into the courtroom and they submit their family to these judges, I mean, they're essentially asking a stranger that doesn't know them from Adam to make very serious decisions about their family structure, how they raise their children, how they spend their money, and it's very personal. And just the technical side of it, the family code gives these judges a lot of discretion to basically do what they feel is right. I mean, there's not a whole lot of definition to what these judges can and can't do in a lot of circumstances in family law. There are some instances where they are more specifically governed, like you must do this, you must do that. But for the most part, it's a lot of this is at the judge's discretion. And so if you have somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, who doesn't want to give people the time and attention that their case deserves, or put in the work to stay up to date on the case law and the rules of evidence and the rules of procedure that are constantly changing in our area of law, then you're going to have somebody who is making some really poor decisions for someone's family, and that person is going to have to live with that decision. And
Right.
there's nothing more serious. I mean, and so I try. A lot of people don't have their lives touched by the judicial system. And so I find
Right.
that, in a lot of cases, mostly the disconnect is just it has not yet affected them. And so therefore it's difficult for them to understand the severity of it and how serious it is. And, for them to get excited about it. But I think once you start talking to people about their families, like this could be you, and this person that you
Right.
are electing could make decisions about your family, I think people start to
Right.
perk up, and I think that people really start to kind of pay attention, like, oh man, I really should be vetting these candidates a bit more, whether it's criminal law, family law, county court. You're dealing with people's freedoms in criminal court. You're dealing with people's families
Right.
and their money and their property in family court. And it's just, these are very personal, very serious issues that need to be taken more seriously by the local community. And that's just what I try to emphasize. If there's one thing I get out of this campaign, it's to get people to care more about judicial elections. And not just because, I'm selfish and I want better judges because I practice in front of them, but also just because it is that important, and it makes my job more difficult as a practicing attorney to advise my clients and get them to do strategically the right things, or just what's right for them, if I've got a judge that doesn't know what they're doing or makes asinine decisions that have no basis in law or fact. And it's devastating when you have somebody who's making decisions based on their lack of experience.
Right. Since you've been out on the campaign trail, you've been, I know it's probably pretty different since we're still in a pandemic, so there's probably less numbers of people. But have you seen an excitement from young people, or is it more from, regular voters, people that maybe are a little bit older in age? Are you seeing young people getting excited about actually voting?
Yeah, I think it's actually been a pretty good mix of both. We've had a couple of events
Okay.
out at like bars and things like that, and so we'll have more young people come up to us and talk to us at that point about what we're doing and what we're running for, and it's exciting for them. Like, they live in Fort Bend County, they take they're interested, they're They want to find out more information about, the court systems, whether that's the 328th or some of the other district courts or the county courts. And then when we're block walking, particularly in my neighborhood, we have a little bit higher population of older people, but I've gotten, excitement from them because, we're talking to people who are, Democrats, because I'm running in the Democratic primary, and they are excited to vote. And these are people that take voting seriously, and they want to hear more information about the candidates, and sometimes they just don't know where to start. And so it's nice to get out there and actually knock on doors and talk to people face to face, so that you can have that connection and that you can tell them, okay, yes, you can get this information. Here it is. Please do your due diligence. I know you will. And then, try to earn their support.
You broke down, when you have someone that is, seated on a bench and maybe doesn't understand the law and certainly doesn't understand family, or they have a concept of what family should be, and so then they make decisions based on their own bias. You and I had talked about the ways in which family law does affect the community. Maybe you can kind of share some of that, because I really want people to take this thing, really seriously. And if we begin to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, knowing that it could be us one day, God forbid. I mean, we would never want to go before a judge, especially when we're talking about matters of the family, because who's closest to us is our family. And then to have, your family and decisions made for your family by someone else who's on the outside. And a lot of people never get a chance to experience that. But what kind of ways does family law affect the community?
So, and it
question.
does, yeah, no, it's a great question, actually. I mean, because ultimately it impacts it in two different ways. So there's the legal side of it, where obviously if you don't know the law, the procedures, the rules of evidence, it's going to lead you to make some really poor decisions, get appealed a lot, not good for anybody. But then there's the organizational side and the work ethic side, where, I mean, in Fort Bend, each of these courts has about 2,000 plus cases apiece. And if you're not handling your court and your dockets in an efficient manner, and you're not organized, then this is another way that it impacts the community as a whole, because then you get this backlog that ultimately is going to affect literally everyone who walks into your courtroom, because they're going to be having to deal with you trying to make up for your delays, trying to make up for, unnecessary, times where their cases have to be reset, when if your courtroom was running efficiently, then you could keep the docket moving, and therefore not having to have these people who are coming in there in the worst times of their lives. Most people cannot wait to get out of family court, no matter what their case is, because they're angry, they're sad, they're emotional, they're bitter, they're depressed, they're exhausted. I mean, they're not in a good place 90% of the time. And so, inserting yourself into their problems as the judge, whether it's intentional or otherwise, is never a good thing. And so you want to make sure that you're not the problem with these people. And then, talk about even the bigger community at large. When you have a backlog of your dockets and you're not handling that efficiently, then it's just going to cost the county more resources, which ultimately is going to fall on the rest of us, to pay for, because that's going to just be more money and time and staff and things like that the county has to invest in to fix your problem. And so, you not only have the emotional side of things, where, you're seeing hundreds of families, every other week, every week even. And so we're a county of 850,000 people, and that's just one court. I mean, we've got two other family courts, and as the county grows, they'll just keep adding more family courts. And so you're talking about affecting a very large number of people's lives, whether that's in CPS court or in just your general docket, that, and that you're going to touch these people's lives directly as a judge. And then, like I said, you've got the more technical side of things, where if you're not ready for that workload, and you're not ready to put the time in and give these people the time and attention and the respect that their case deserves and their family matters deserve, then it's going to be a big problem for the county. And not to mention, just from a party standpoint, you don't want to just be electing. Fort Bend County is moving in a Democratic direction, and if the party, wants to continue that they want to put good people on the bench, or in these elected offices,
Right.
because you don't want the county to start losing faith in the party because we put somebody in there that was just kind of, not vetted very well, or not, screened
Right.
for their experience or what their ability to handle, things like that. And then you've got people that are all of a sudden they don't want to come out and vote anymore in the primaries, or they don't want to come out in the general. They're not excited to come out and vote, and that's a big problem. And I don't want to see the county that I've grown up in my entire life, take 10 steps backwards because we're lazy about vetting our candidates.
Right. You and I had also had a conversation, and I'm going to bring it up, about you being the youngest candidate in Fort Bend County. Is this a period all across the board or just for family law?
It might be. I know that there's
And you're a
a
woman. Wait, what?
yeah, that's right. I am 36, going to be 37 in April, and there's another candidate that's running for county clerk that is also fairly young. He's either the same age as me or maybe just a little bit older. So one of us might be the youngest running at this point in time. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that matters. I mean, because it's what the struggle for me as a younger person in the race is to get people to understand that years of experience, like number of years, is not the same thing as quality experience. I mean, you can go decades as an attorney and never see the inside of a courtroom. You can go decades as a family law attorney and never have more than one jury trial. You can go decades as a family law attorney and avoid contested hearings like the plague. You get known as, a settlement attorney, as we call it in the business, where the good litigators know that if you put a little bit of pressure on these attorneys, then they're going to fold, they're going to cave, and just to avoid a contested hearing, because either they're not prepared or they just don't like doing them. And so, it's important to ask these tough questions, and some people don't know what to ask, and that's totally fair because they're not, involved in the legal profession. They don't deal with family lawyers, they don't deal with criminal lawyers, so it's important to ask about the quality of experience as far as, what we're doing on a day-to-day basis in our practices. Because again, I mean, I'm sure there's younger attorneys than me out there that could kick my butt. But I mean, it's not, so I say that to say that years don't necessarily equal like quality experience, because there's been
Right.
plenty of attorneys that have been doing it for 30, 40 years that I have, wiped the floor with. I mean, because it's just, you put in the work and you do that, you put in the work for your clients, and you put in that effort, and that's where you get the good work product, and that's where you get the good reputation, and that's where you get the reputation of, oh, I can't pressure Blair because she's not afraid of having a hearing, or she's not afraid of having a jury trial, and she's not afraid of making these arguments. And so that's kind of what I strive for, is just to be professional, but also just, I have a reputation that I'm a good litigator, and so I'm going to, hopefully bring that to the bench.
I'm so excited about that. And I'm really excited to see younger people take a personal stake when it comes to politics and when it comes to the justice system, period. I love seeing it. I think that, what we see as elected, we're looking at when it comes to elected officials, politicians, you're seeing, and forgive me because I don't want to be insensitive, but we're seeing a lot of senior citizens that may not be able to fully grasp what's really going on, and their ideas of things have not necessarily translated to what is happening in 2022. And so I think there needs to be a change, fresh faces that are willing to get in, dig in, and do the work. We don't want someone that's just there looking cute. The work needs to be done. And I think I'm very excited about, whenever I see younger people taking a stance and saying, these things aren't necessarily being done right, or there's room for improvement here. And I think that when we wall ourselves off and say, hey, this is a great system and it should continue to stay there, there's a reason why we're saying it's great. And I don't think that either you or I could say that our entire political system is a right system right now. It's broken, It's
Yeah.
crazy broken.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you know, the thing that's most frustrating about a young candidate in the Democratic Party is Democrats love to talk about how representation matters, and I 100% agree with that. It does matter. It matters a
Right.
lot, and it matters, you know, and they also in line with that talk about how the youth vote is this massive untapped voting block that if we could just get, you
Mhm.
know, these young people to vote in droves, then we'd be sitting pretty as a party. And so why you would, you know, be dismissive of younger candidates, you know, that's something that we want to try to avoid. I mean, because
Right.
that's where that representation is going to come from. That's where, you know, people who are really good at what they do, but they just happen to be young. I mean, you could use that to your advantage. I mean, you put a young person in there that's driven and wants to do a good job, they're going to be in that seat for as long as possible, and as long as the county will have them, and as
Right.
long as they keep doing that good job, then you've got a Democrat
Right.
in that seat for years and years to come, many cycles to come. And so, you know, it's not just like, you know, you're getting in for a couple of terms and then you age out or anything like that. You know, but
Right.
and we've got good judges that do that. But I mean, as far as like longevity of sustaining that or of maintaining that seat or retaining the seat, and then, you know, having the representation of the youth vote in there and getting younger people out there, like, you know, this could be you. I'm not that much older than you. You know, I've got, you know, about
Right.
13 years on you, but I mean, you know, outside of that, like you could run for office one day, a lot sooner than you think.
Right. Right. But we're going to take a really quick commercial break. I hope that you come right back and continue this conversation with us. This is Blair Parker. She is running for judge for the bench seat for the 328th District Court. It is family court, and we are so glad to have you here again. We're going to take a quick commercial break, come back and check us out in just a second.
AT&T Fiber delivers a faster internet experience than cable. Ask me how to get 300 megabits per second for only $35 a month, plus taxes and fees, with no annual contract, no bundles required, and unlimited internet data included. Call Boss Up Houston Network at 832-895-5095. Again, that is Boss Up Houston Network at 832-895-5095. Limited availability. May not be available in your area. Speed claims based on combined upload and download capacity of Internet 300, Internet 500, and Internet 1000 versus Xfinity, Spectrum, and Cox 400 meg, 500 meg, 600 meg, 1 gig, and 1.2 gig cable services with uploads of 10, 20, and 35 megabits per second. Download max typically is 940 megabits per second for Internet 1000. Speed varied, not guaranteed.
Mark 16 and 15 says, "And he told them to go into the world and preach the good news to everyone." We know that the good news is the gospel of Jesus Christ. Hi, my name is Pastor TRICIA Kyle. That's right, I said it. I am the lead pastor for a brand new division of Boss Up Houston Network, and that is Boss Up Inspiration. Every single Sunday from 11 until 7. Can't wait to see you, and can't wait to see the brand new content that we're going to be bringing you every single Sunday, again from 11 until 7. Right here on Boss Up Inspiration. You can catch us live on the Facebook page. You can also catch us live on our YouTube page. Can't wait to see you. Come and get inspired. See you soon.
Hey, welcome back to Take the Limits Off. Again, this is our weekly show. We air and come to you every single Friday at 8 p.m. We're not in our regular studio. And I'm so glad that I have Miss Blair Parker, Mrs. Blair Parker, who is running for judge. So glad to have her with me. I've not been in the studio. We haven't had a brand new show in over a month. There's been some COVID situations. And again, I do want to remind people, please do wear your mask. Please continue to take good care of yourself as well as your family and the entire community. But we are here and we're virtual today. And I'm so glad that you decided that you accepted the invitation to come on. And we definitely want to talk. So when is the election? When can people vote? Where do they go to vote? Talk to us.
So early voting starts February 14th, Valentine's Day. You can start voting, and it goes through, I believe, the 24th. I can't remember what that Friday is. It's the 25th. I apologize. So it goes from that Monday, the 14th, through not the immediate next Friday, but the Friday after that. So early voting goes on for the last 2 weeks of February. And then the actual election day is March 1st, and that's the primaries. And then if there's going to end up being a runoff, then that will happen, I believe, just a couple of months later. They try to do a quick turnaround for that so that people can get ready for the general in November. And as far as where they can vote, it depends on where they live. I mean, there's a lot of early voting locations that the neighborhoods around the county have. I know in my particular neighborhood, I can think of at least 2 or 3 of them within a couple mile radius of my house. And so, I mean, they're definitely out there. The county does keep a list of the early voting sites. So if you went on Fort Bend County's website, you could find it in the election section, possibly on the county clerk's website, because county clerk is in charge of elections. And then, the respective parties, I'm sure the Fort Bend County Republican Party has that same list, because I know the Democratic Party has it. It's all public information, and so people just need to figure out what the location is closest to them and then go take care of it. Because I promise you, it'll be a lot easier to early vote than it will be on election day. It's going to be, even for a primary, it's going to take a while to get through that line on election day. It usually always does.
Right. Right. So if you are not registered to vote, www, and you're in the state of Texas, www.texas.gov, there is a voters registration tab. You can go there and fill out your voters registration card. You can also go to, if I'm not mistaken, post offices and also state buildings. Is that correct? You can file if they have voter registration cards there, correct?
I think so, and I hope everybody's registered, because the deadline to vote in this election was yesterday. So,
right,
it was January 31st. But hey, if you missed it, still go get registered. You can get in for the very next one, the next one possible. I mean, it's still doubly important. And I think that the county party, or the Democratic Party, at least, because that's the one I have knowledge of, is they've been doing a pretty good job of getting out there and getting people registered. But along with that, as you talked about before, or you alluded to before, is trying to get people excited to vote. Because if we get people registered, that's fantastic. But if they don't get out to the actual polls, then it doesn't really do anything for us. So, we've got to get people more excited about these races, even in the midterms. They're all very important. The ballot is going to be very long. Do not ignore the bottom ballot races. Those are your local races. They're not the fancy governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general races, but they're just as important.
Right. And you mentioned that, so the U.S. House, the governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, state executive offices, state senate, state house, Supreme Court, appellate courts, state ballot measures, school boards, municipal and candidate ballot access, as well as, I understand, school boards, local judges, of course. All of these things are going to be on the ballot this year, and this is really important that we make sure, if we're feeling marginalized, if we're feeling like we're not being heard, if we feel like laws are not in the favor of all people, then we have a voice. And the more we push it away and throw our hands up and not take those things seriously, I mean, it's a right, but it's also a privilege. And I think a lot of times we get super excited when it comes to a presidential race. We may even get super excited when it comes to a governor race or a mayoral race, but we oftentimes push those other things off to the side and miss our local government, what's happening right around us. And it's really important that we take that into consideration. So as you mentioned, for this particular race that's happening, that is March the 1st, the time is already lapsed for voter registration. Hopefully you are registered to vote, but there are still other elections that are coming this year. And so please make sure that you do your due diligence and get out there. I know this is going to be airing on this Friday, so certainly that time will have already lapsed by that time. So, but make sure that you are registering yourself to vote, and then consider your local people that you're voting in local government. That is really important. This is who we come in contact with far more regular. We have constables out there. We've got to be voting your judges in. So we really need to be paying attention to that. So when you go out and you talk about voting, what is the thing that you do that really gets people's attention and gets their excitement going when it comes to registering, maybe for the first time, or maybe reconsidering? A lot of times I think people throw up their hands and they just kind of get disgusted because they feel like their voice doesn't matter, it doesn't count. When we saw the election that happened between it was back in Florida, the Chads, if we remember the Chads, and people were just wishing and hoping and praying. I think a lot of times people feel marginalized and they feel like their vote doesn't matter, it doesn't count. What could you say to someone today that's maybe has not considered voting in those local elections? What would you say to them?
So typically what I tell people who are maybe feeling discouraged or feeling like you said their vote doesn't matter, or I live in a predominantly, red district or blue district, why should I get out and vote? The Democrats, especially in Fort Bend, because Fort Bend used to be extremely red. And so, if you were living in a precinct or an area that was predominantly Republican, then a lot of people just figured, well, why would I even bother? But the flip side of that is that that's what they want you to think. And that's the reason they're passing all these laws in Austin, to try and make it harder for you to vote. I mean, if it wasn't this important, great, fantastic, wonderful thing, then why are they working so hard to take it away from you and make it more difficult for you to do? Voting should be the easiest thing in this country to do. You show up, you punch your buttons, and you leave. It should not be jumping through 10,000 hoops. You got to have this, that, and the other. We need to be making it easier for people to vote, not making it harder. And I think that the fact that the current legislature of our state is attempting to make it harder just goes to show that your vote is extremely important. And because otherwise, why would they care how easy it was for you to vote? I mean, they wouldn't be trying to take something away that wasn't important. And so they know the power that you have as a voter, and they want to stifle that or take it away. And so I think it's important for people to understand that, especially in local elections, that can sometimes be decided by a handful of votes. I mean, you're talking about communities that may only have a few, even in a community as large as Fort Bend, may only have, several thousand people show up to vote. And I've seen local elections decided by less than 100 votes. And so, I mean, you can't, if you don't show up, if those 100 people don't show up, then that could sway the election. And so, it really does matter, and that's as simple as you can say it. And in focusing on the fact that A, people are trying to take it away from you, and B, particularly it gets magnified in the local elections when you can have elections that are decided by just a very, very small amount of votes.
Right. We've really seen a lot of politicians take a really hard stance, especially a lot of Republicans, I'm going to say that, really taking a very hard stance, doing redistricting and making things really difficult, and people having to constantly register, approve whether or not they are, they have the right to be able to vote on a regular basis. And that's a lot. And that is, you're absolutely right. It's everything about that is to discourage the voter from going forth and making their voice heard. And so, we have got to understand that this is a game that's being played, and to refuse to fall for the okie doke. And we've got to keep pushing and keep pushing. And our current state not legislature, but our governor has done everything that he, I think, possibly can to whitewash things and to make things as difficult as he possibly can. And it's not like it's sneaking underneath, like we can't see it. We're talking about it. It's well known. And we see this, and yet he's still here, and we're not more outraged. That is what boggles my mind, that we're not more outraged when we see civil liberties being stolen away from people, in the form of redistricting, in the form of making it difficult for people to register and to make their voice count with every single election. You know, that presidential election that happened back in 2020, it's like they all got together, had a conversation, and said, this is what we're going to do. And they're playing from the same handbook, the same playbook. And so we've got to do something different. And I think the something different that we need to do is become more organized, but become effective in the things that we do by actually taking the steps and going in and casting a ballot. Every time the polls open, we need to be there, especially when we know that there are so many people that when we say it's equal justice, where is there equal justice in this country? Justice is shaded by color, religion, sexual orientation, race. It's shaded by all kinds of your religion, religious factors. It is shaded. It is not blind. It is not set up for everyone to win. You and I had that conversation as well. But
Yep.
this is the truth. And there are so many people that are being hurt. And then you said something earlier, you know, if it doesn't really pertain to people, then they're not really forced to have to look at it and to deal with it and begin to break it down. And you know what I'm saying? So
Oh
if
yeah,
you've never
yeah.
experienced racism, then you don't really have, you have the luxury of not being able to pay, of not having to pay attention to it because it doesn't affect you. If you've never been discriminated against for your sex or your sexual orientation, anything, then you never really have to dig in and say, hey, this is unfair to a huge segment of our
Mm-hmm.
society. And they're being hurt and marginalized. Things are being withheld from them. Their voice is being withheld, and we're making decisions for them and about them, but not even understanding really what it is that people are dealing with and experiencing on a regular basis. That's how we can say things like systemic racism don't exist. They don't
Right.
exist for you, but they do exist for so many people. They don't exist for me, but they exist for so many people, and it's in every aspect of life. So to have someone who understands family law and who understands the complexities when it comes to the family, and be willing to do the work and to dig in and to really take time to consider each family as individual families, not across the board. What family do you know looks exactly the
Right.
same? So
Right.
I think that's hugely important to have that type of representation. People that care. I think that's what we're looking for, is people that actually care for their constituents. You care for the people that you're there to help. It's by the people, for the people,
Yep.
not by the people for self-interest. It's by the people, for the people, all of the people. And when people are being marginalized and overlooked, then we have an issue.
100% yes. And I think that you're absolutely right. I mean, it's an empathy thing. I mean, if you don't have that experience
Right.
with people who have struggled in ways that you have not, and you haven't heard their stories or you haven't seen their struggles, then yeah, it's difficult for you to understand why this stuff is
To
important.
understand.
But
Right.
I think as long as you're open to having these conversations about people's different experiences and opening yourself up to the fact that just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it's not happening. And I
Right.
think that if you remain open to that and just be a good listener, essentially, if you're
Right.
of the privileged ilk, such as myself, then that will
Right.
help you with your experiences as far as helping others that are experiencing these struggles themselves. I mean, because otherwise, you're just going to be off in la la land thinking that everything is perfect and we don't need to change anything, and that's just absolutely not true. And so, yeah,
Right.
and that makes it doubly important to have somebody on the bench who, like you said, is going to be fair, impartial. Doesn't matter what
Right.
religion, what walk of life you're from, what color you are, what sex you are, what sexual orientation you are. Somebody who's going to take your case and treat it, as I said before, like with the respect and give it the time that it deserves. I mean, because like you said, every family is different. We don't need to be cookie cutting, our decisions regarding people's families where you're just giving everybody the same response. I mean, every family is going to need a unique, consideration because of their situation. And I think it's important that you are flexible in that way, but also, remain empathetic to experiences that you yourself may not have yet had. And so as long as you remain fair and impartial and, you are staying up to date on all of the procedural issues and all the legal issues that will affect these families, and you're making people feel safe and secure in coming into your courtroom, because that's a big problem in family court. You've got people coming in who they're in a CPS case, they think the judge is siding with CPS because they're both the government, and that is just absolutely not how it works. And you want people to feel good about coming into your courtroom, even though it's a really bad time for them. You want them to feel good about coming in and knowing that I know this judge is going to be fair, whether they side with me or not. I know they're going to give my case the serious consideration that, and that's all that people can really, that's the bare minimum people can expect from their judges. I mean, and I think that goes into putting in the work and the compassion and the empathy side of it.
Absolutely. We're going to take a really quick break. And when we come back, we want to get your information. How can people support you? How can they reach out to you? All that good stuff. So if you don't mind, come right on back. We'll be right back in just a couple of minutes. My name is TRICIA, and this is Take the Limits Off.
Oh my God! I just got through watching a great show on Boss Up Houston Network. Have you heard? They're bossing up, okay? And I heard they're looking for you. Any podcasters, talk show hosts, if you're a writer or producer, we definitely need you. Come aboard and boss up. Our topic today is, what's your status?
Hello fam, Ken Mills here once again.
And here at Boss Up, we like to help small business owners and entrepreneurs advertise, promote, or become a sponsor for one of our television, podcast, or radio shows. All you have to do is click the link down below to see if you qualify.
This is Boss Up Houston, where we look up, stay up, and boss up.
And we are back again. My name is TRICIA, and this is Take the Limits Off, where you can check us out every single Friday at 8 p.m. We do air on the Boss Up Houston Network YouTube page, as well as Boss Up Houston Facebook page. You can also catch me on the YouTube, the Take the Limits Off YouTube page, and my Facebook page, TRICIA Kyle Ministries, TRICIAKYLE Ministries. And you can find that little tab that says Take the Limits Off. I've got a page that's dedicated to this show. So make sure you're checking us out. And Miss Blair, I am so glad to have you with us today. No, we're not in the studio. Hopefully at some point we'll be able to meet in the studio or meet face to face. I know we're doing this virtually. Again, we'll be able to meet hopefully again shortly face to face. But I want to thank you so much for taking out your time and to talk about the importance of voting, and also talk about what it is that you bring to the 328th District Court, the Family Court in Fort Bend County. And man, I pray nothing but blessings over your campaign and all that you do. Tell people how they can reach out to you. How can they get in contact with you?
Real simple. My website is just blairparker.com. There's places where you can sign up to volunteer, to do block walking, or work the polls, or donate money. I know this is cliche, but running a campaign is very expensive, even on a local level. And so, getting all these signs printed, making sure we're paying our people who are working the polls and working the phones and things like that, making sure they're getting compensated for their time. I mean, it's a lot. And so any amount helps. Any amount of time helps that you can volunteer. My contact information is there. You can mail letters or donations there. or you can call and either catch me or leave a message and you'll get a return call, or you can email us. I mean, we're constantly checking our emails and getting back to people. We're pretty accessible. So, I mean, if anybody has any questions about me, about the court, about family law, and how this race is going to affect the county as a whole, then I'm more than happy to talk to anybody for as long as I have to.
You know, I want to bring this up. When I first met you at the domestic violence conference, I was very struck at the fact that, well, I knew that you were running for judge because you did announce it there, um, but your understanding of the complexities of domestic violence, and it's not just an easy, you know, someone hits you now, you know, run and get out of that relationship immediately. You seem to understand the complexities of domestic violence, and I greatly appreciated that, to see someone who understands what it is. And I am a domestic violence survivor myself, and so it really did impress upon me. I was very glad to hear someone who's been in family law actually understand where it is that we were coming from, and what some of our experiences have been. And so to see someone on the other side understanding that, and I know that you'll bring all of that experience, and it's things that you've, you know, witnessed, and certainly just your heart, your compassionate heart, and I think that's pretty amazing. And so,
Yeah.
again, nothing but blessings to you. Nothing but blessings to you. There is a scripture, Luke 12:48. It's the B part of Luke 12:48, and it says, "To whom much is given, much is required." And we have to take that as well seriously. You know, we're here, and we've been so blessed in so many different ways, and so we've got to do all that we can to ensure justice for all, and looking out for our brother and our sister. So I truly do thank you for what it is that you're doing, what you have done in the past, and many blessings to you. So again, how can they reach out to you? How can they get in contact with you?
They can go to my website at blairparker.com. They can email me there. My phone number's up there. Our address for donations is there. A link where you can donate online is there. Also, I mean, if you need to get in touch with me through my my law firm's website, you just add law at the end, so it's Blair Parker Law. You pretty much Google my name. It's unique enough. You'll find me. And like I said, I mean, we're pretty accessible. We like to talk to the people. That's why we're doing this. And so if anybody has any questions whatsoever, then by all means, please visit blairparker.com and get in touch with me, and we'll talk for as long as we need to earn your support, or at least get you excited to go out and vote in this particular election.
Beautiful. I've got just a couple minutes left, and I did talk with you about something, and I said I definitely want to bring this out. You know, the entire the purpose of the show is to encourage, inspire, and hopefully empower someone to take the limits off of their own lives, and see that there's greatness on the inside. It may not be the same greatness that's inside of Blair Parker, but it's their greatness, and there's a calling for each and every one of us. What was it that brought you to the place where you're like, you know what? I'm just going to run for judge. I'm doing it. I don't care. I'm doing it. What brought you there? That dare to believe.
Well, I mean, it is something that I always wanted to do. I would say that the opportunity presented itself a lot sooner than I had anticipated. But I mean, you know, I'm just lucky that I have really supportive family and friends. I mean, because I would not be able to do this without them. I mean, I'm strong-willed and I'm type A, but I mean, you don't, I mean, you can't know what it's like to have that support until you're in the thick of it. And I have just appreciated it so much from everybody who's donated, supported, and my family who's been there and helped canvass and work events and things like that. It's just been fantastic. But ultimately, I think it came down for me personally is just, since I was young, I have just always wanted to leave my mark on this world by helping people. And this is just my way of doing that. And I want to do a good job at it. I'm my biggest critic, and I know that I am always going to push myself to do the best job possible. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I'm always going to be much harder on myself than anybody else is. So, I know that I can, do good work for the people of this county. And, that's kind of what inspired me to just say, let's do this. I have loved the experience. I have loved getting out to talk to people. I have loved getting more involved in the community. It's been what my goal since I started my firm, and can, basically I'm my own boss and I can run my schedule now and donate my time a little bit better. And so, it's just one of those things where I knew that I would regret it if I did not, try and get this position, because I know I can do a good job at it. And I knew that I would be just like, kicking myself if I didn't at least put my name out there and give it a shot, because I think that I can do a good job. And I just hope that I get to, convince enough people that that is the case for us to, take the bench.
I believe in you. What would you say to someone who is teetering and they've got something that they've always wanted to do? Maybe it's a big something. What would you tell them today? It may not be, the same line of work that you're in, but they've got this thing that they're passionate about, and they love it and they want to do it, but maybe fear is standing in their way or something. What would you say to someone today that's watching the show?
I know this is just cliche, but just do it. I mean, it really is that. It's scary. It's intimidating. But once you finally make that leap to do it, I mean, if this is something you're truly passionate about and something that you truly want to do and that you're excited about, that fear will go away. That once you make that leap, you're going to be fine. Once you decide that this is what you're going to do, I mean, you are going to put in that work. You're going to make the effort and you're going to be okay. And if you're lucky like me to have that support system, those people are going to be there cheering you on, and they're not going to let you crash and burn. They're going to be there for you regardless of how successful you are or not. I mean, I know when I started my firm, I told my husband, this was back in 2019, that I would rather go out and fail in a blaze of glory than stay one more second in this job that I just had become unhappy with. And so, it was scary, and it was, like I said, intimidating, but once I did it and I realized I was going to be okay, and I actually do know what I'm doing, then it just became all the more easier. And it's the same thing with running for judge or whatever endeavor you're taking on in your personal life. If you just make that leap, everything will work out the way it's supposed to. As cliche as that sounds, it really will. And you're going to put in the work to do the best job that you possibly can at it. And you're going to figure out whether you love this or you hate it or what you want to change about it or anything. It's a process. You just got to take that first step and you're going to be all right.
Right. I say do it afraid, period and point blank, but do it. And you said you knew you would regret it if you didn't at least try, if you didn't do it, and go for the gusto. And I concur. I believe that wholeheartedly, even in my own life, that there have been times when fear would stand in my way. But my job is to keep on pressing and keep on pushing, and to not allow fear does one thing, and that is to stop you right there, to stop you from going any further. And so we can't allow anything to stand in our way from doing what it is that we're pretty much purposed to do. It's your passion, it's your drive, it's your love, it's what you've been purposed to do. So there is purpose in each and every one of us. And when we can appreciate that and see that in one another, I think we can begin to celebrate each other a whole lot more. I just want to thank you, Blair Parker, for coming on.
No
Blair
problem.
Parker for Judge. You can go to her website, blairparker.com. Make sure you donate. Make sure you reach out. Make sure you support her. She's amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us on another episode of Take the Limits Off. We come to you every single Friday. Love you so much. This is Boss Up Houston Network. I'm not in the studio, as I usually say. Oh my God, I'm so happy to be in the studio. Well, I'm so happy to be with you, even if I'm streaming. Hopefully we'll be back into the studio maybe in a couple of weeks. Amen. Once we're sure that COVID and my immune system is all good, then I'll be back in the studio. Don't forget to join us this next Friday. I've got an amazing guest. We're going to be talking about real estate. That's right, purchasing property. Oh my gosh. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. God bless you.
You.
Have an amazing, amazing, amazing evening, and love you with a whole heart.
There are 3 ways to stop limiting God and yourself. Change your thoughts, change your beliefs, and change your actions. I'm inviting you here on Take the Limits Off Friday evenings at 8 p.m. right here on Boss Up Houston Network. We serve an unlimited God. Don't you think it's time we take the limits off?